Today, I am talking with Elsa Sevilla. Now, she is an ambassador at the San Diego History Center, and we're talking about how you at home can actually be a part of history. So, take it away, Elsa.
Thanks. So history happens all the time, and these are definitely historic times. So at the San Diego History Center, we are kicking off History Happening Now, Share Your Story. And what we want to do is we want to focus and reach out to people who can go to our website, sandiegohistory.org, and basically log on, answer some simple questions, and talk about these historic times and what they're doing, how they're coping, and a little bit about their families. And the really cool thing about it is when they share their story is going to be part of the collections at the San Diego History Center. And it's going to be really cool because, 20, 50, 100 years from now, people will go back and see how we survived, this pandemic. And so it's really cool.
Yeah, it is really interesting. I know we're all kind of quarantined, we're at home. Not only can people write about their experiences, but they can share pictures and video.
Yeah, and the really cool thing about it is that people can do this by themselves or, involve mom and dad or grandparents if they're at home with them. So it's really cool, and they could do it through Zoom. They could do different things. They can get photos, they can get videos, video stories, and those kinds of things. And so again, they would have to go to the website and upload that and answer those questions and agree that their story will be in the collection so that people in the future can go to the History Center archives and look at their story and find out, what they were doing, how they were coping. I mean, simple things as like going to the grocery store, even going on walks around the neighborhood, stay 6 feet away, really simple stuff. But also, aside from how we're surviving, is a little bit of history of the family. And so it'll be really cool. Can you imagine having your story in a museum? And maybe in the future, it could be part of an exhibit or something like that. So we're excited about that.
A great way to document how we're all connecting. And you're also trying to stay connected with the people of San Diego. You're doing something that a lot of other museums are doing around the world, and that is that you're going to be allowing kind of virtual tours.
Yeah, definitely. What we're working on, we're working on several things. One of them, as we're talking about, is history is happening now, and tell your story or share your story. And then we're also doing a couple of other things. We have an education component to the museum. It's K through 12, so this goes year round, and we've had it for the last 20 years or so. And so it's K through 12 education. So we have kids that come into the museum on a regular basis, Monday through Friday, year round. And what they do is they learn about local history and history from 250 years ago to thousands of years ago, when the first people of the Kumeyaay Nation lived here for 12,000 years. Then you move forward to the Spanish period 250 years ago, and then you move to the Pioneer period. So we have this education component. And so what we're doing is we are working really hard to get that into an educational video. And we're in the process of uploading that in the next few days on our website so that students, third and fourth grade, along with their parents or by themselves, can learn about history, can learn about documenting history, can learn about what are objects and what are different objects, everything, within the home, of course. So this is a really cool thing that we're also working on. So we're doing different things. We'll be doing videos from the collections. And fortunately, so people don't always know what the San Diego History Center is, and we are a museum, K through 12 education, but we also have one of the largest research archives in the western part of the United States. And that's, we have 47 million documents that are historic maps, architectural designs, and 2.5 million black and white photos. So if you've seen those black and white photos of San Diego 100 years ago and those kinds of things, most of them belong to the San Diego History Center. And I love that part of the museum because you can learn so much about San Diego, and you can learn so much about different communities. And that's what we're all about, is preserving San Diego's history, but also from all different communities and letting different communities tell their story as well.
I don't want to put you on the spot here, but I do want to ask you, do you have a favorite historical fact about San Diego?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, there's so many. I have so many really cool stories that I've learned. I produce documentaries in the last 11 years, and we produced 80 documentaries
Wow.
400 local stories, which air on KPBS, and they still run on KPBS. And so I didn't know that much about San Diego history until I started producing these documentaries. And so I was learning along with everybody else. And what people would always tell me is like, oh my gosh, I passed by that house or that, part of town, and I never knew what it was until I saw your show. So there are really so many. I think my favorite has to be historic architecture, Victorian stories about people that were extraordinary, uh, stories that people don't know about. I mean, like in Julian, there were at least 5 or 6 African Americans that arrived in Julian in the late 1870s. And what they did was extraordinary. They started the Julian Hotel, which was then called the Robinson Hotel. They started a bakery. They started a laundry service. They started just so many different things, and nobody knew about their story. And so we were able to focus on that a few years ago. And so just extraordinary stories are the ones that I really like.
Is there a way that people can watch some of those documentaries now? Are they on the KPBS website?
Yes. So the good thing is that they are on the KPBS website and San Diego's historic places. And most of the 80 documentaries are online. And they're also on our san diego history.org website. We're putting those up there, some of the most popular ones. And what's really cool about it is that we tell the history from all different communities, whether it's San Ysidro, whether it's Logan Heights, whether it's up in, Oceanside or far east to the Indian reservations. Julian, of course, is one of my favorite places. The cemeteries, we did several cemetery stories. And that one is a really cool one because people would say, oh, that's kind of morbid, but there's so much incredible history in the cemeteries. You talk about, well, you see the headstones and you see the names and the years that they lived, and then you see the people that they're related to. So there's so much to learn from the cemeteries episode that we did. And even just visiting the cemeteries is just really cool. There's just so much history that people don't know about, and I'm still uncovering so much.
I
So
know
yeah,
there's always so much that it's exciting.
yes,
You can go
it
very far
is.
back, especially here in San Diego. We're kind of an epicenter of culture, which is
Yes.
incredible. I want to ask you also, you're working with the San Diego History Center. You've learned so much, especially over a long period of time of making these documentaries and collecting data. Is this moment in history unprecedented to you?
Well, I think it is for all of us, right? Because it's the first time we're living through something this big, a pandemic this large. But we were researching the Spanish flu in 1918 and looking through some of those photos, the black and white photos. It shows people wearing the cloth masks, and so it's like, oh, you can relate to that. And as I was reading information about this period in time, 1918, you can see that there are several parallels to what we're going through. They closed down so many different businesses during the time, public places, and only the essential, like banks, groceries, and those kinds of things stayed open. So we're living through that. So it's really interesting that there's so many parallels, and that's what we say about history. Not only is it exciting, educational, but you also get to see what history was like, and sometimes you get to relive it because it's similar, very similar. And so history teaches us how to survive, because of what we've learned that other people went through. And it also, what's really cool, and you know this in news, that when there's something this large or an emergency during the fires and floods in San Diego, the community comes together. And that's what we're finding, is that, people are checking on neighbors and checking on the elderly in the neighborhood and those kinds of things. And people, I mean, at least in our neighborhood, everybody's kind of taking it in stride and kind of trying to stay calm and also follow, the guidelines of staying at home and those kinds of things. So history teaches us a lot of things, and that's what I find really exciting.
How have you been staying sane personally?
So we exercise daily just to get out of the house, but now we're doing two, going out of the house and exercising the whole family. There's 4 of us, and taking the dogs. It's like our excuse is like, we got to get the dogs out. And then now being home all the time, it's like, we need to go out and just get out of the 4 walls and, just try to take it step by step and day by day and focus on the most important things, which is staying safe, healthy, and, stocking up on things that you need, right? The kitchen and little essentials that you need around the house and stuff like that. And, toilet paper, where to find toilet paper these days. Right? Who would have thought we'd be talking about toilet paper? But yeah, just, exercising. And I have to work from home. So that keeps me really busy as well. I have to juggle our son being online. He goes to charter school, so his school is online, which is actually a great thing.
Yeah.
But it is kind of challenging trying to my schedule, his schedule, and everybody else's schedule. But other than that, it's just trying to take it day by day.
Maybe you'll have a section of the San Diego History Center that's toilet paper chronicles, where people went, what they did once it was sold out.
Yeah, no kidding, right? But we were talking about creating this podcast about history now, and we just started it. And we're talking about how people are coping with COVID-19. And so some really interesting things, right? You have some similarities, and some people are trying new things and trying to navigate the digital world and the meetings and all this other stuff, right? Trying to keep that routine going. So yeah, we'll also have a podcast talking about COVID-19 and a podcast talking about history. So, this has kind of given us a platform to try new things as well.
And will that also be on sdhistory.org?
Yeah, definitely. We should have them in the next few weeks. Yeah, we will have new content. So right now we're doing history happening now. Share your story. The education component and videos will come soon, and then the podcast. And we're also thinking of doing the videos from the collections, just because the collections is incredible. When we open, we'd love to have you come by. You'll be blown away because there's so many stories from the collections, whether it's the documents, the photos, the objects, the art. We have so many incredible stories that we would love to share with people, with San Diegans.
When we were allowed to socialize and to be together, I went to the San Diego History Center, and I'm pretty sure that's
Great.
the center that also had the drag queens exhibition. Yeah,
Yeah.
I adored that. And I didn't realize, this is a side note, but how much history there is in drag in San Diego.
And that's the whole thing about our exhibits. We have the LGBTQ exhibit, and we still have it. And it was and it is so popular because people didn't know about the history of LGBTQ in San Diego. And now we're working on a Nathan Harrison, which is he was the first African-American former slave to come to San Diego and the Far East County. And so that exhibit will be coming up as soon as we reopen the museum. And so these exhibits are really, for me, I love museums. I love history because I think it's exciting. But the other thing is that you learn so much from museums and exhibits, and I find that exciting. But yes, sandiegohistory.org for all of the new things that we're working on right now. And we want to stay engaged with San Diegans. We also want to make sure that people are, connected to history and preserving history in their own way.
And this is a way for you, if you're watching this, to preserve, to connect, to give back to San Diego. And all you have to do is document yourself from your home. Elsa Sevilla, thank you so much for joining me, sdhistory.org. And if you do it, you're also going to give Elsa something to do while she's at home. She can start vetting these awesome projects that you're sitting
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Our whole team will be going through those stories and looking for those really, cool stories about how people are surviving and documenting history. So that'll be really cool.
Elsa, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.